Jeff?
Hey, sorry. Hey, Darlene.
Hi, okay, I just wanted to see if you were on.
Yeah, I'm on. Sorry about that delay.
No, that's okay. Everybody should be getting on now.
Okay.
Paul, are you there?
All set. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Now I can.
I'm here.
Hey, Alan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Erica. How are you? Nice
Good,
to meet you.
thanks.
I think the first
You-
time I've actually seen your face.
Right, we've just spoken on the phone.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think Peter is not going to be able to make it. But what about Cindy and Andrew? Anybody hear from them?
Cindy
Cindy-
sent the
Cindy
message.
said she couldn't come and sent an email. And I know I saw the one for Peter, but I didn't hear anything about Andrew. Let me give him a call.
Do we have, there's 1, 2, 3 of us? Is that enough to, is that
There needs to
majority?
be 3 committee members.
Okay, that's majority, right? Because there's 5 of us. There's Andrew.
Ah, there he is.
Hey, Andrew.
Hi. Tuesday, November 24th to order. I don't see anyone from the public on. I did send an email to 5 people who expressed interest in becoming a tree liaison. 2 of them said that they could not make the commitment, and 3 of them said that they could. Steve, Christine, and Elaine. I haven't heard from them, and clearly they're not logged on, so I'm not sure. I'll follow up with them, but sometimes, people have ideas and, want to do things within the community, but then when it comes down to being boots on ground, they might not have the time to commit. So I'll reach out to them and see if it's possible. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from last month's meeting, September 22nd. Do we have an approval?
Well, I note there's several typos in it. It's kind of more rough than we're used to getting. And I don't want to go through all the typos in this meeting here. So, I think it's acceptable on my point of view with the correction of typos, which I will send to Paul tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Including my name was spelled wrong, which is of biblical proportion. So I want to correct a number of those.
And so a corrected version then would be posted online?
That's correct. We'll get whatever Andrew's got, and between Delaney and I, we'll just make the revisions and then have Monique post it online.
Perfect. Do we need a second? Paul, was that a second?
I'll second. I have
Okay.
typos too. I'll send them to Paul.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no new incidents of legal cuttings to report. Tree update planting program. You might notice something a little different on the agenda. Paul and I put together a chart. I'm an educator, so I like things in nice, neat little boxes. And that it's very easy to see what's happening. And I think we're going to start reporting some of the plantings like this twice a year in the spring and in the fall, so that we could really just have this running total. And so I think we should all be congratulated that we have 73 trees going into the ground in 2020. And sometimes I don't think we realize how impressive it actually is until we see it laid out like this. And this is something that, you know, hopefully we'll be sharing with the community who, you know, doesn't really know a lot about what we do. Was there something specific, Paul, that you wanted to say about the plantings?
No, basically just that between Erica being an educator and I being an engineer, that'll work out good for the boxes and the numbers.
Right.
And
Well-
it did. It really actually makes it look pretty impressive. And I've talked with Gary from Olmsted, and he's given me an update. We've got a couple of people that I've got to check back with because one particular person, I guess, refused a planting at that point when they came to do it today, but I will check in and take care of that. And then there were a couple of other questions that they had, but it looks like right now, as of this minute, they have 39 of 56 of the new ones for fall planted, and they've got approximately 12 of the 17 from the spring. There is a couple of issues with the Redmond American lindens. They're having trouble getting those.
Oh,
Washington Street, a replacement is not an option, but he's asked me if there's any substitution for other areas that we could do for the Redmond American lindens.
Well, I didn't spec any Redmonds. Where are the Redmonds on this?
There were 3 on Calf Pasture Beach Road, and then there were some other ones in the list that we had for the fall, and I can go through those, but he was asking if there was anything else that we could do for those.
Well,
Any ideas, Rich?
I'm not sure. I wasn't aware that there was a shortage of those.
He
There's,
told me, just read it to you, he said, the problem with the lindens is they're completely unavailable until spring of 21. They were in very short supply in spring of 20, and their order didn't come in until late June. That's why we didn't plant them, by the way. And then asking if there was something we could substitute. So that's what
are
he's
any of
telling me.
those, are any of those trees on residential properties? Because then you have to confer with the homeowners, the property owners.
There are a couple, yes.
Well, then that means you have to confer with them.
Yeah.
But if there's any others that are not,
There were 3 on Calf Pasture Beach Road.
well, there are homes there. I don't know if I
No,
don't.
these were over on the opposite side of the road from the homes at Taylor
Okay.
Farm. So it's city property, so we
Right.
could pretty much substitute them.
What have we been putting there on there in the past that has done well, given?
It's been a variety of things that we've done, but if there's something else that we'd like to put there, we can do it. Otherwise, we could just carry those over until spring of 21.
So when you say carry those over, I just want to make sure that this is actually reflective of what we've done. We have 73 trees in the ground. What you're talking about is above and beyond this.
No, that would make it 70. We'd
Okay,
pull them
that's,
off.
okay, that's why I wanted to do this chart with you, because I don't want it to reflect things that were ordered. I don't want it to reflect things that we're thinking about. I want it to reflect what we actually have in the ground, because that's what is going to make the most impact when we have, you know, Josh run a story or post this on our city website. And
Right
I don't
now-
want it to be muddled by that, you know?
Right now, we'd be talking, it looks like 4 out of 73.
I mean, 73 minus 4.
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at 69 so far. Okay, but I mean, the
Without
year's not,
those, unless we substitute. If we substitute, he'll get something else and then we'll plant them right now.
I agree with Andrew. The trees that are on residential property, we have that binder where we give people a choice of 4 or 5 trees. If one is not available, let them pick from the other 2 or 3 that are available, and we can move forward with that. And then as far as calf pasture, I'm fine with whatever, you know, Rich wants to put in there.
It's a little late in the season. Do we have time to be able to make those changes? Or do
Gary's
you
telling
think
me we do.
we do have time?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be 70, or not 70, but it's supposed to be almost 60 degrees through the weekend now.
Wow.
Well, we had 3 varieties of trees on calf pasture, and I'm okay with swapping those out. We had oaks, lindens, and maples.
Well, is oak the best thing to plant this fall?
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
He can put those in, or he can just go with the maples, which are doing very well down there. The one Redmond linden that I wouldn't swap out is Washington. That's got to stay that.
Of course.
And that, exactly, and I was not gonna swap that one either. So right now, if we swap those out, it'll be 73 minus 1, Erica.
Okay.
Well, what do we have
I'd
down?
rather do that so we keep the higher number and just hold off on the one on Washington.
I agree.
But just to keep a variety of species down there, what do you suggest, Rich?
The exact locations, if they're all abutting or if they're spread out, but I know that driving down there and looking at the trees we planted in the past, the red maples have done extremely well.
Well, let's do that.
And they're a great tree for putting in the fall.
Red maples then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do the red maples. All right, and he can get those. The other question I have then too is at 149 Gregory Boulevard, there's a park down there, and they had requested an Augusta pine. And that's not something that's on the list, and Gary said he wasn't aware of it. Do you know what that is, Rich?
No, what's the name again?
An Augusta, like Augusta, Georgia?
A lot of trees end up having multiple names. I think that's probably a slang name for the real technical name of the tree, and they're just calling it that.
Any idea what that would be?
I'm looking it up now.
Or Alan, either one of you?
I've never heard of it. I'm looking for it.
Did an
I haven't heard of
individual
it.
request that tree? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think from my personal perspective is that we offer a certain number of trees and we don't really make a precedent of allowing people to dictate what trees we put on the property.
That's
We-
correct.
We can give them a choice, but I'm just a little hesitant to allow someone to pull a random tree just because they particularly fancy it.
No, that's
May
correct.
not- may not be
We'll
zoned.
go with one of the ones. I just trying to get it as close to what we have on our list as possible.
I don't think we have any evergreens on our list.
Yes, we do.
We
And
do?
Yes.
And we have done, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
I
Norway
was given the
spruces.
Reader's Digest book.
I just Googled Augusta pine. So
The only thing I can think is a
really, I had never heard of it. Anyway,
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Andrew?
what?
You cut out for a minute,
Uh,
Andrew.
The only tree that I just Googled Augusta pine, and they were all artificial pre-lit Christmas trees. So I don't think it's a common. I just don't know.
So then if we have
Okay.
evergreens on the list, maybe Paul, you can show this person the other evergreens that we've already kind of pre-approved that have been vetted through the
Yeah.
committee and ask them to pick from that.
Okay, I was just mainly asking Rich kind of if he knew of it, but if not, then I'm gonna go down with what we've got and we'll go from there.
I think somebody put that name in because they were watching the Masters golf.
They might have, but right now Gary's telling me he anticipates having everything from the 56 fall trees planted by the weekend.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Anything you wanted to add about the budget, Paul?
Okay, I can share the screens if you'd like. Jeff? Can you allow me to share my screen?
See there?
Yep, did you try? Try now.
It just said the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
No, try now. I just did it a couple seconds ago.
Okay. It's not letting me get to my,
You have to X out of, if you try to share, you have to X out and then click the share button again.
should I bring the file up?
Well, you could, yeah. So when you hit share, you get a couple of options. You just choose the first one, my screen.
All right. Just hit the screen share.
Mhm.
My screen, I don't see it.
What options do you see?
I see the basic advanced files and then share computer sound, optimizing.
No, you should, when you click it, you should see screen.
All right. I've got one now, I see.
Yeah.
How about that?
Good.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's up.
Okay, this is basically where we started in the spring. And we had carryover from prior to the start of the new fiscal year. We had a carryover of $2,313. The 17 trees that we had placed orders for and are still completing was 18,204.27. We had 20,518 prior to that left over, which left us a remaining balance of 2,313.73. So we brought that into the new fiscal year. And you guys see the new screen
Right.
No, not yet.
with the 14,000 at the bottom?
Not yet. No, the old one's still up.
Remind me, what is the fiscal year? What are the
Thank
dates?
you. That was my question.
Oh,
Our fiscal year is basically work on July 1st through June 30th.
yeah. That's right.
So that $2,000 was brought in after July 1st.
Yeah.
And if you guys aren't seeing this, I'll get back out of this other one.
Okay.
And I'll go back in again and share it.
Just to choose the first option, screen.
Okay. You should see it now.
Yeah, now it came up.
So now we've got the 56 trees, and the total of the 56 trees was 52,362.50. The remaining amount was the 2,313.73. We got 65,000 as of July 1st of this year, giving us a total of 67,000. And when you take the 67 minus the 52, it gives us a remainder of 14,951. So going into the spring of 21, we'll have almost $15,000 left to spend until June 30th of 2021. And then if the Common Council approves the capital budget that we've requested, July 1st, we would get more money. And just for everybody's information, we've asked for $65,000 again.
Good.
What's the average cost per tree? $750?
$750, $800 in that area.
So we got about 20 trees approximately we can do spring,
Roughly. And what we're going to have to do is the RFQ is up. We're going to have to put out another RFQ in the spring because Olmsted's contract is good until June 30th of 2021. As of July 1st. So we can use them for the spring planting. And then we would have to go with whichever company is the winner in the new RFQ for the fall planting in 2021.
Should we start requesting more than 65 so we can try to get it above 65?
Agreed.
I had to twist arms to get a 65 request this year. And that's a request, not an approval.
I think people in general, though, want to see more trees going in the ground, and the only way we're going to make that happen is by getting the budget increased.
We can ask, I'll
yeah,
ask and I'll tell our chief that the committee has asked for more money and see if he'll increase it from 65 to what would you guys like to see?
Well, to Erica's point about being more proactive in terms of what we do, that will help us get more money, especially if it's in the newspaper and so on.
Yes.
And I have some ideas about how we can do that, give some image, including, I don't want to take time now, but if there's an opportunity, we can discuss that. But I think Eric is all over that now, and I think that's really good. Beyond updating the website, but working with Josh and creating maybe other events, we can talk about that at some appropriate time. But that'll.
If you guys had a number and you want me to ask for a number and ask Anthony Carr to up the number, what would you like to see a request for?
I'd
Well,
like to see 80 and then, take a
Yeah, I was gonna say we could think about it because there's a typical percentage that you go up, on a regular basis. But I agree with Rich. I think 80 is reasonable to ask for, and we would love to put together some kind of a presentation for the people on the Common Council so that they can understand exactly how this money is being used. I'm sure there are some people on the Common Council as well that look at it just as a bottom line and might not realize how we transfer that money into, trees lining the streets and increasing canopy. And so I think it would be, really important to show them something like we planted 73 trees in 2020. We did, the best we could in terms of an Arbor Day program with kids in the neighborhood, even though we had to deal with COVID. Things like that, I think would really go a long way.
But more than saying what we've done, I think we ought to put together a rationale about why we need the increase, including saying we're targeting this area of Norwalk, which has been underserved. And to do that, we estimate we'll need an additional percentage or number of trees. The trees would be like that. And even showing some imagery, have Peter do a little,
Like a little rendering.
Yeah, and I love the fact where we're specifically targeting streets where we're doing sidewalk and curb repair for tree replacements, because a lot of times when those projects occur, there's trees that need to be removed, and we've seen that, and we've heard the public outcry, and we can show them that when the city undertakes projects like that, we're on board with replanting those areas as part of the project.
Yeah, it's good. Paul, when would we need to put together a rationale and a budget request?
As soon as possible, because technically the capital budget submission was last Friday.
Oh dear. Okay.
So immediately, but I can let Anthony know that we've gotten instruction from the committee to ask for more money if we could.
Do you think we should have Erica, do you think we should have a special session where we just address this, and put together where we would want, what the rationale would be and with specific target areas?
I think so. I think coming together and kind of brainstorming some bullet points, even if it's something, sooner than later, just to get it over to Anthony, and then we can flesh it out with images and other things. But yeah, I absolutely think
like next week after the Thanksgiving recess?
Absolutely.
You want to suggest a time? And I'm flexible.
Yeah, I can send out an email, and I can put together, I have my own Zoom account, so I can put together a Zoom link and I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay.
But we should be, our goal this year was to try and basically have enough trees to do 2/3 of the budget. And we'll be in really good shape because we'll have about $15,000 left, and we ended up spending a good portion of it. So this is just so everybody knows too, if you don't already, the 56 trees is the largest order we've ever had in a spring or fall session ever. And it's by a long shot, because the most we've had before was 35.
How many trees did we, if you can just kind of give me a very rough estimate, do you think we put in 2019? And I understand the fiscal year overlaps, portions of each year. But if we're looking at about 70 some odd trees in 2020, how did we increase from 2019? I think that is something we should also.
Dramatically. If I think that I'd have to look at the numbers. No, so don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I'd say we probably did 30 to 40 trees last year versus 70.
Okay.
I know Chris Torrey has an estimate of what trees were lost in recent storms.
Mhm.
I think that should be part of our rationale.
Excellent.
I know Chris gave, we had asked him and he had provided
He did.
that. I don't remember the number.
Yeah, and I could say, personally working for a tree company, that it seems like annually now, we always have a major storm of some type where numerous trees are lost in every community. Seems to be like an annual event.
But a number would be good,
But I'm just saying, yeah, all those,
Yeah, a specific number would be good. The councilmen like educators like numbers.
I can look at the meeting we had right after that storm, because I remember Chris was on and he mentioned it. So I'm sure it's in the
He did.
minutes.
Okay.
It's in the minutes. It is definitely in the minutes.
Great.
But that the budget, expended budget basically was to give you guys an update of where we were, where we're headed, and knowing that we've got about $15,000 for the spring.
Okay. I'd like to increase that budget for the spring, and that's perfect timing because the NEEF grant that I'd like to apply for is next on the agenda. NEEF, like Frank, actually stands for the National Environmental Education Foundation. And we are qualified or eligible to apply. It's open to educational institutions and local governments. So I would love for it to be a collaboration between NCC and our Tree Advisory Committee as part of the city of Norwalk, if everyone is on board with that.
absolutely. Yeah.
They have a couple of different rotations throughout the year, but I've selected the March 15th rotation, which would be in line with our spring planting. And the application for the grant would need to be in by February 1st in order to be considered. So we do have, not oodles of time, because, the next month is kind of trapped up with holidays and whatnot. But we do have until February 1st to pull the documents that we need.
Does the grant go to a nonprofit, which NCC is, or can it go also to the city?
NCC has two categories that we're listed under. The school itself is an educational facility, and then we have what's called the NCC Foundation, and they're billed as, I want to say, a 501(c)(3). And so we could, if it needed to be one or the other, we could use the foundation, or we could collaborate with the Norwalk Tree. But since it's an educational facility and local government, I think it makes the most sense for us to do the advisory committee with the college.
Would it help to get support from the NTA? Alan's almost sitting right there. As a co-sponsor or approving?
It's not necessary. The grant is eligible to one or the other. It doesn't say that they have to be all on board. If we wanted to talk to, Alan, if you want to talk with me more about the grant and see if it makes sense, or if the area where maybe Fodor Farm makes sense to plant some of these trees. So the grant is pretty specific in that it has several different categories. And one category is conservation, where we plant trees, increase space for biodiversity and wildlife. Another is maintenance, where we can restore structures at different parks, enhancing the infrastructure. That can include benches, it could include trees, it could include a few other things, picnic tables if we wanted to, maybe maintain a pathway. Part of this was born in COVID and getting people to, and utilizing outdoor spaces and then trying to maintain those spaces.
Well, how about the outdoor school? Is that the outdoor tree school? That sounds like it might be useful. Also, Alan, you know that apple orchard that's in terrible shape there?
Yes.
Would that be an interesting opportunity to refurbish that and have a sort of a teaching space of different fruit growing trees? I'm just ideating here.
Yeah, it's something that we're definitely looking at. Andrew, Rich, and I on the Tree Campus Committee spoke about planting different fruit trees on NCC as a way to help increase food security. We wanted to obviously get more mature trees because nobody wanted to wait, 20 years for a tree to start producing apples. But it's something that we can absolutely consider. I'll send out the link. I'll send out the different categories that we can apply to. And no one says we have to apply to just one. I mean, if there's one category that we want to use for a particular park or location in Norwalk, and then there's another category that fits really well with the tree school, then there's no reason why we can't send in multiple applications.
Okay.
It's
Great.
dollar amount of the grant.
It ranges. They start at 2,500 and go up from there. It depends on, what kind of case you make for yourself, like a lot of these grants that are a little more open-ended. But again, I'll send this out, and it's a Restoration and Resiliency COVID Recovery Fund. So the money was earmarked to bolster outdoor spaces for people to at least socialize a little more safely, but also to not be penned up inside if we needed to lock down. And so they saw a need to kind of maintain a lot of the outdoor spaces that were being used more heavily as a result of COVID. I mean, I'm sure we all saw people walking up and down the streets that we never, in numbers that we never saw before. And so imagine some of our pathways being utilized to that extent, and some of the infrastructure that probably needs to be bolstered in order to maintain. Maybe, people want to continue to use them after we develop a vaccine. So I'll send out information on that. I think it's a really, I don't want to say it's an easy grant to apply for. It's competitive, but they do have a lot of funding, and so they definitely dole out, a decent number of grants.
Could you send Alan that too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Boy, I'm talking a lot today. The website, I am trying to, people, get folks, if you don't send me pictures, I'm going to pick pictures that I have of you and put them on there myself.
There's incentive.
All I could send you is a selfie. I was looking, I haven't had a photograph taken of me in a long time.
Maybe we have one from Rich's luncheon where, no, everybody was like all in masks and distancing. It looks
You were
weird.
drunk.
Yeah. What I'd like to do is update the website for the Tree Advisory Committee. Right now, we're just a bunch of names in our political affiliations. And it would be nice if we had, talking about the Common Council, for example, they all have pictures of themselves on there. There are plenty of neighborhood committees, including East Norwalk, that has the pictures and a very short bio. So I think that if we could all submit a photograph and just a few sentences about yourself, it's not a narrative, just like one or two sentences, just so people can understand who makes up the Tree Advisory Committee. And the other thing I think is important for people to see is that when I was responding to some of that, the posts that I had mentioned during our last meeting on the Cranberry Nextdoor site, I got the distinct impression that even though people didn't know that there was a Tree Advisory Committee, they assumed that all of us worked for the city of Norwalk. And I explained to them that we all do this on a volunteer basis. We might have a member or two that do work for Norwalk, but that is completely separate from this committee. And I think then if we have a couple of sentences about ourselves on this website, people will be able to see that we do this on a volunteer basis. That we don't have an agenda other than to plant trees.
By the way, is Chris Torrey considered a part of the Tree Advisory Committee?
He's the tree warden. And
I know.
yeah, he is a member of the committee, but I'm at the staff person, so we work on the stuff together. So yes, he is
So I just
an
wanted
ex
to be
officio
included in this,
member.
but my question is to see included, that's all.
Yes.
On the website.
On the
I
website,
think
no.
his name is on there now. I'd have to double check. For some reason I thought, but it might just say Tree Warden Chris Torrey.
Sorry, I just wondered, I was interested.
No, it's a good question because I don't want to exclude him in asking for a picture as well if we need to. So duly noted.
And Erica's championed this, and she's talked to IT, and I talked with IT too. And basically, they said they're willing to work with us to make the website more friendly and do whatever we need to make it more user friendly to the public. So
Right.
whatever we can do, they're willing to help us.
Right.
Jeff, you might see Lisa Shanahan too. Try and log in.
Okay, this is, were you working with Joyce on this?
Now, Lisa Shanahan, as a council member, she just sent me an email too. You might see her try to come into the meeting tonight too.
Oh, tonight's meeting, okay. If I see it, I will.
You'll get a notice that says that someone's in the waiting room. So
No, there's no waiting room. Maybe she'll get as an attendee, but let me see. Okay, I see her as an attendee. Should I allow her to talk or promote?
If she would like to say something, she is a common council member.
Well, she can use the raise hand feature, or I can just let her in. You let me know.
However you'd like to do it. If she'd like to say something, yeah, we let her in.
Ask her about the budget first and then.
I had a conversation for about 10 minutes with her yesterday related to that.
All right, we'll let her in then.
Thanks, you guys. I'm really here just to listen in and to celebrate the fact that you're going to put in 70-something trees. So thank you. Very excited about that news. So,
Thank you.
Hi,
hi, everybody. Thanks so much for all the work you do. I'm really so appreciative of trees going into Norwalk. I'm going to ring off at 7 because we've got a Common Council caucus meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks for stopping in.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Same to you, Lisa.
Thanksgiving. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to put on the website, and I think we spoke about this during the last meeting, was a link to the GIS we have of all the trees, so people can go on and they can see where the trees have been planted over the course of time. We have that already in place. It's not on our website. All we'd have to do is create a link for it, so it's very easy to do. It's current up until maybe the last 2 plantings or 3 plantings are not on there. But for the most part, it's still very impressive, even though it might be down 100 trees. You know, we could always have a caveat like when it was last updated, so people can understand that there are more trees than are reflected in the actual mapping. Paul, did you want to talk about the recertification for Tree City USA?
I am starting to gather the information. Delene is pulling the financials together for us now. So we're starting to do that. And I'm taking a look at the growth awards and what we might apply for. And usually the programs that they want to see, if you've got repeated programs, is have they been improved? And one of those this year, I would think would be a great candidate would be the tree planting program, because we've planted so many of the trees. So I was looking to use that one as one of the growth award applicants. I was looking to possibly use the tree school and that as one of the applicants. And then as we get closer, I can pick the third one. Usually there's 3 that we need to meet the number of points. You have to get like 10 points, and usually we get like 12 or 14 points in order to meet it. So that's where we're headed right now. But anybody that's got any information, please send it to me and we can start putting the package together. It's got to be submitted by January 15th.
Alan, you'll work with Paul this year on NTA, correct?
Correct.
For example, and I know you're going to be talking about the 6th taxing district tree planting plan. That's a new program. I don't know if that's should be reflected this year or next year. You guys can decide on that. But that would definitely be that's a new program, and that would be a growth considered part of the growth award. I don't think the trees will be planted until what, next spring, perhaps, Alan?
Correct. Yeah, April 2021.
So you might want to include that for 21, or I don't know.
Yeah, probably go to 21. I will, when we can get to talk about that, I will need the financials for the Tree Alliance too, to include, because all of that gets combined with Parks and Rec, Public Works, the Tree Alliance. It's all part of the overall city tree program.
Great.
You know, for example, the NTA planted a tree at St. Paul's Church as a memorial to COVID, to the people we lost to COVID this year in Norwalk, and that's a nice, you know, it was one tree, but it was significant in terms of what it represented. That should be on it, things like that.
And everything such as that is what we count toward the actual number of trees, because that is one of the questions. How many trees have been planted in the city of Norwalk this year? And that would go toward the count.
Okay.
And you already have a nice chart. So Paul, what would be an idea for like a third? You said you need 3 things. Like what would you be looking at as a potential? Just so I can understand.
Events, possibly. The event, if there was anything with the NCC, possibly, that was within the year of 2020, and we might have just missed the cutoff on that. And I know you planted a tree there for Arbor Day, but the 2 trees. Was there anything else that was done related to that that could be used?
You know what you can say? Remember I wrote the lesson plan for the Lorax, and I shared it with, where were we supposed to have at Cranberry School on Noah Lot? Was that where we were supposed to have the Arbor Day last year?
Yes.
Remember I wrote an entire lesson plan for them to use on Arbor Day, because we were not going to be able to hold our traditional program, and it was based on the Lorax.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can get a copy of that, that would be good.
Yep.
Well, Erica, I think what thing is notable is that Norwalk now has another tree advisory committee at NCC. Just the idea that we've instituted yet another environmental educational tree program in the city of Norwalk at NCC. I think that is significant in itself.
I would agree. I think there's only 2 communities in the entire state that can even say that they have a Tree City campus. So I think we really should promote that.
It definitely bears mentioning, but I would just use a little caution because it's not as if Norwalk was the one that instituted or did anything
Yes.
on the campus to make that happen. Right, Paul? You agree, Paul?
Yeah, and we got to be careful about double dipping because you're going to have to put stuff together for your renewal for the tree campus, and that we don't use the stuff twice.
Right.
It's not like my taxes. Okay. I was kidding.
Okay, Andrew, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to be careful.
So anyone who
All you
has,
got to do is call us on something like that, and then
Of
you
course,
end
of
up with a
course,
credibility
of course.
issue.
so anyone who has any photographs or anything, and Paul, I'll send you the lesson plan. Just send it over to Paul so he can include it in his report. As Paul mentioned, I'm applying for Tree Campus USA at Norwalk Community College again. Last year was the first year we applied and were honored with Tree Campus USA status. We also have until July 15th. They extended it because of COVID, and they're relaxing some of the requirements. For example, in the past, they wanted to see a full Arbor Day presentation and celebration, and now, if you had nothing, or if you did what we did at NCC, where we planted 2 celebratory trees, that counts as the event. They understand that obviously people are not going to be gathering. They're also a little more forgiving with the dollar amount that's being spent. Normally they want to see growth and they want to see funds earmarked, but when you have someplace like the college that was closed down for 4 or 5 months, there has to be some give and take with that. So they're being very forgiving with it. But nonetheless, it's still a large application to submit, and I started working on it about a month ago, and I'll be done with it probably the first week of January.
Is yours all digital, Erica?
It's all
Online?
digital. Yep, it's all digital. And they actually just changed it. They used to have what they call Tree Campus USA. Now they've subdivided where they have higher education, and then they have K through 12.
Okay.
So there's a new category, K through 12, on there, which is fantastic. And then they have higher education. Irrespective, NCC is the only community college in all of Connecticut that is honored as a Tree Campus. And it is the 2nd school in all of Connecticut. UConn was first.
That's good. That's great.
Alan, if you would like to talk to us about the NTA.
Absolutely, thanks. By the way, it's been great being here, and listening to all of this is really helpful to understand the programs that you're working on. So a few items to report on. We had our elections as was previously reported, and we're moving forward with a great committee group of people that are excited to work hard, not dissimilar from what we've had in the past. A couple things to report on. So the 6th taxing district, we are working on a more holistic program for them, as opposed to what had previously been suggested, that we would plant individual trees on private property with the goal of them being canopy trees. We're working on a master plan for them that can be rolled out over a few years with targeted areas of row weight in the 6th taxing district. The first round of that, the grant that they've given so far, will be planted in the spring of 2021. 2 other activities that have recently come up that we're working on. We're partnering with Luis Washer, who many of you know, on the Norwalk River Valley Trail. So there's a segment of the trail that will soon, within a year I'm told, be connected to the rest of the trail. This is from the Union Park area down to the YMCA, the old YMCA. And there were a number of trees planted along that stretch about 8 years ago, but there are still many gaps that need to be filled. And so we're working with her on developing a program that the NTA will spearhead and put together to plant trees along that. We're also working on a program at Woodward Avenue Park, and a number of trees have been planted. The park is looking tremendously better than it was 5 years ago. There have been a lot of improvements made, and Louise has some additional ideas, and she was looking for a partner to help with some design thought and strategizing about what and where. So we're going to be working with her as well on the Woodward Avenue Park. One of the goals the NTA has set for 2021 is to have our planting activities be planted by volunteers. So in years past, and there's nothing right or wrong about what's been done, but in years past, it's been more of hiring someone to plant the trees, similar to how the Tree Advisory Committee works. We are going to now have planting activities wherein volunteers can sign up to come and install the trees alongside the members of the board. So we did our first 2 trees just 3 weeks ago, planted entirely by members of the board and their own muscles and shovels. And it was a really interesting activity. It was really neat to actually have our hands in the ground. I'm sure it's been done before. A lot of the stuff I'm finding has been done and things come and go, but we have a renewed focus on that. And so the project for both Woodward Avenue and the River Valley Trail will be working on setting those up so that they can be volunteer activities. We'll have to work within whatever the COVID restrictions are at the time that we plan those. But the goal is that they would be more like what happens with, for instance, Tree People in California has a number of tree planting activities that you can just look on their website and you can sign up to go, and they sort of line up all of the materials and things so that people can show up and plant. That's the idea, is we're going to increase the number of those opportunities because we think that we have a unique position to allow for that type of interface where Tree Advisory Committee has a little different structure and you need to go about things a little bit differently. We have the flexibility as the nonprofit to be more of a volunteer inclusive effort. So we're going to be working towards that goal. I am so excited about this chart. You have no idea, because that's something that we've been working on, and Andrew just emailed me a big piece of that. He has this amazing map that he has been keeping in the 3rd taxing district with a pinpoint of every tree that's been installed. And I'm finding that that is the record keeping of what's been installed where is so crucial. And so I'd like to propose an idea. This might be more than what needs to happen, but wouldn't it be interesting if there was a Norwalk chart of trees that were planted in Norwalk, either by Norwalk River Valley Trail people, Norwalk Green, Conservation, TAC, NTA, right? We're all sort of working in our silos and we do these things, and we've planted 15 trees this year. You planted 73. I'm sure Conservation and Land Trust planted some trees. I was walking the Norwalk River Trail last week and noticed little tags on these little saplings planted by the Garden Club. We're all doing this, and yet we don't see it as a holistic effort, as the city as a whole, right? Working on all these trees. Wouldn't it be neat to have a tracking or some sort of database where we could track all of the trees that get planted and all of the organizations listed of who's done them? I think that would be neat, because it might add a little competition and a little fire to like see who can plant the most trees, right? It might increase the publicity about what everyone's doing. So just planting that seed. I don't know who would manage it. I don't know who would administrate it. I'm just planting the thought.
Well, we could do something like that, and the map that Erica was talking about already kind of has that, because what we've been doing is we've been mapping the Tree Advisory Committee trees, and if you go into that map and pull down, you can hover over each tree and find out when it was planted, by who, and what type of tree was planted. It
There are
also
NTA trees
had,
on there, right?
it
There's
also had the
trees, yeah.
NTA trees
Mhm.
that Andrew and the
Nice.
group from the NTA had been planting as part of the 3rd taxing district grant. So
Amazing.
that's already being done. So if that information comes into Public Works, I can have an intern do the geolocating each either spring or fall or both, and we can keep that map up, which would basically give you just what you're talking about.
Yeah,
We
and it's
could
just
have-
I
looking
need
for
the
color
information
coding.
coming in from everybody.
And we could color code with pins,
Mhm.
pins, different colors for what organization planted them and so
Yeah,
on.
there are 2 or 3 organizations on there now, so it would just be a matter of maybe
Amazing.
collaborating with the others. You know, we all know Luis really well, Washer and some other people, and say, okay, let us know how many trees you planted and where, so we can get them into the system.
Amazing. That's great.
Communicating that.
Where can I find that? That's on the Public Works site.
Yes, and I can email a copy of the link because Erica and I were looking at that just the other day.
Mhm.
Oh, you started this a few years ago. You got your interns working on it.
Yes,
Is that correct? I mean,
yes, that is correct.
and every year you ask me what the locations and what trees were for
Right.
the NGA.
With COVID, though, there were no interns this last summer, so there's a little bit of a lapse just in the last few plantings. But other than that, it is pretty up to date.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was already being done.
So one of the things that we want to do on our website is to have a link to that so that other people could see that as well.
Yes, and in a more visible location where people can find it easier.
Yeah.
But a big hard copy map, the way we've done it at, and which is now in the board, that the board at the commissioners at the third taxing district liked it so much. It's in there. It's the star in their conference room. This big map.
Awesome.
Paul, you printed the map for me.
Yes,
You know.
we have the ability to print that on our plotter. One thing that I will mention to you, Alan, too, just so you know, for coordination purposes, the NRVT Phase 2, the bid opening was last Friday. And that project, I believe, during construction, was the low bidder, and that'll be going to the Public Works Committee in early December for approval of the bid for that contract too. So that will be starting under construction next year.
Oh, that's great. That's great. The area that we'd be planting it is the area that's already been done. So it'd be between Union Park and the YMCA, but that's amazing. What are there planned tree plantings within those plans? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know. I'd have to talk with Mike Yostock, who was involved with the Tree Alliance also, to see. He was handling that project.
Okay. Fantastic.
Oh,
Okay.
Just to kind of piggyback on the mapping that we're talking about, I'm sure, Alan, you know about this. On December 1st at 6:30, there is a conservation mapping Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I signed up for it. I gave my students extra credit if they sign up for it. And I can send the committee people the registration link, so you can jump on and see I think the areas that have been targeted. I think it was 1 through 10, like which are in more like severe need of reforesting, if you will, versus a 1. I was planning to attend, and I registered on December 1st with the sole mentality of maybe zoning or honing in on a zone where maybe I can make this NEEF grant work.
Nice.
Yeah, send that to
Great.
us, definitely.
So I'll send that. And you know, something Alan brought up made me think that maybe putting something on the website about grants would not be such a bad thing either. Even though the advisory committee does operate with funds from the city, the grants that I write supplement those funds, and they are 100% based in educational programming and volunteer activities involving school groups, from miniature humans to my college students to community members. So, so maybe including something about a couple of the past grants that we've worked on would be kind of cool on that website as well.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about what we've seen with the ones that you've done so far, Erica, is it appears that most of them have been a zero match, whereas some of the transportation and federal grants, it's like 80 federal, 20 city, or 80 state, 20 city. Yours are all 100% paid for with no money from the city, which is great.
Yeah.
Would you put Blumenthal's congratulatory letter on that as well?
Exactly, exactly. That's beautiful.
And then we can get the latest copy of the Tree City USA recertification information too.
Exactly.
Ellen, did you get a copy of the letter, congratulatory letter on Tree City USA? Did you get a copy of that?
I don't think I've seen that, no.
I've got it. I can send it to you, Alan.
Oh, do you have a meeting with the board? You have a board meeting on you don't, do you?
I have not this Thursday, but next Thursday.
Okay, so I'm sure Alan would like to have it and show and distribute it and present it to the board.
Yeah,
I can send it out.
Alan, did you want to talk more about the NRVT planting program, or I feel like we cut you off a couple of times. I didn't know if you were.
You know, it's in its infancy right now, so we don't have a
Okay.
lot there yet, but we are working on that. The question that I had for the TAC is on the Woodward Avenue Park. We toured the park together with Luis as a team to see what has been done. It's a park in a very underserved part of Norwalk. It's a park that is, what's the right word? Has not been very developed over the years and lost a number of trees over subsequent storms. So there was a significant need for replanting it, and the city has supported Luis and a number of people on planting. Paul, you might even know the numbers. There are a lot of trees that have been planted, but there's still a lot of space that needs to be planted.
Well, this is Rich's pet program, wouldn't you say?
Rich and Andrew were involved in that, and Parks and Rec did some of the plantings, but Rich and Andrew can talk a little about that.
Great.
Well, it was totally barren of trees, and we've been in there, I think, twice with the, Park and Rec Committee planting with Peter's help with the initial plan, and then we've done 4 volunteer planting programs out there so far that I've attended, maybe more, with FactSet and Louise and Lori and I think they've applied for a couple of grants for the park as well. So I think it's really neat to see that park start to transition, and there's still a lot more that can be done there. Great park.
Exactly. Yeah, good summary. We saw the efforts, tremendous efforts that have been made so far on the side nearest the street. Luis now wants to focus some attention behind that utility structure near the baseball diamond area.
Yeah, that needs it.
Okay, and that's a pump station for a sanitary sewer pump station down there. And Public Works did a lot of cleaning. Chris Torrey had his crews from operations go down there too, take the fence out, clean up the vines that were all grown in the fence, clean a lot of that stuff out with Jose Ortiz. And they did a lot of work down there prior to some of the planting starting now.
Great.
And just so you know, on the other side of the road too, Public Works is doing sidewalk project over there right now too.
Yeah.
And as part of the 151 Woodward, Rich and Lori were able to get those 6 trees, but the company, if they will plant more trees, the city will then plant some more trees in partnership. And then as we go up Woodward Avenue, there are some more locations that we as the Tree Advisory Committee can plant trees also. But once again, the same kind of theme, doing the road, doing the sidewalks, curb, cleaning up the area, and then doing the plantings as the final complete street approach to the project.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. That's all I have to share today, Erica.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're projecting that the 22nd will be our next meeting, although it is super close to holidays. So we might, unless we have new information to report, we might cancel that meeting, but we'll, let you know ahead of time, of course. I think we need to let people know what is the legal cutoff there, Paul? Was it like 14 days before?
Yeah, usually we like to advertise it 10 days before the meeting. So yeah, we'd want to know by by the 10th of the month, we probably want to decide.
Okay. So just to let you know, I mean, definitely January, but December's a little iffy because it's just so close. Is there any other business, any new business, All right. This was a great meeting, guys, and I'm really glad that a council member jumped in as well. And it was really great to have you, Alan. And, you know, hopefully we'll see you December 22nd if that meeting happens. If not, for sure in January. All right,
Yes.
everybody, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay
Happy
safe
Turkey
and
Day.
healthy.
Hey,
Paul, can I
Paul,
call you
there's a
tomorrow
message-
morning?
There's a message for you in the chat if you've seen it, so just so you know. From Lisa Shanahan, she left a message for you in the chat about 10 minutes ago. Did you see it?
Could we add a layer to the Norwalk conservation map that we worked on with the Norwalk Land Trust? I will write you about this tomorrow. I have to leave the meeting. Norwalk Land Trust is actually one of the big collaborators on that conservation mapping that's going to take place on December 1st. I'm going to forward all of you that link. It's probably a good idea if we all jump in that. I would like to see what they did, first of all, and second of all, I'd like to know why nobody consulted us. I mean, not that they need our permission, but that we would like to collaborate. You know, that's what I mean, that we would like to be part of it, because I think it's a fantastic thing. And maybe we can add to it.
And I think it's very important that, just like Erica's saying, that people need to communicate with some of this stuff. And not that anybody needs anyone's permission, but just so nobody's recreating the wheel. Perfect example of what Alan was just talking about. And if he hadn't been here and heard it, they might have gone and tried to start doing that when we've already got a lot of it already done.
Right.
So yeah, the communication is really important so we don't end up duplicating efforts, especially with volunteers' time. We can always use more time to do another project rather than recreating the same project.
Exactly. And send me pictures.
I'll take
With or
it
without a turkey.
next week so I can send you two. He can take one of me and I'll take one of him.
With or without a turkey.
It's to be determined.
All right, guys, meeting officially adjourned. Any one of those gavels.
Thank you.
Wait a sec. Wait 1 second, you guys. Jeff, did you say there's a message from Lisa Shanahan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Erica just read it.
Yeah, it says, Paul, could we add a layer to the Norwalk conservation map that we worked on with the Norwalk Land Trust? I will write you about this tomorrow.
And
Got
as
it.
long as
Thank
we
you.
can get it, it
Yep.
shouldn't be an issue.
Very cool. All right, guys, have the happiest of Thanksgivings. We'll talk
Thank
soon.
you too.
I'm gonna
Bye-bye.
You
send
too.
an
Take
email
care.
in like 2
You
minutes. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.